Hi, I'm Lizzie,
And I'm Brenda.
and welcome back to Small Step Society. This is episode 11 on the Career Path Student Edition.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hi.
I'm very excited for this episode because I think it's very pertinent in my life.
It sure is.
Yes.
Okay. Song of the moment?
Yes, of course. Let's go.
On today's weekly segment, Song of the Moment, what's your song?
My song is from Julie and the Phantoms, which is a TV series with songs. So it's like a musical, but a TV series.
So cool.
Yeah, it's called Wake Up. It's a very good song. Like, makes me cry sometimes. It's a good song.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like cry happy or cry sad?
Cry feelings.
Just feelings.
Yeah.
Love songs that do that, honestly.
Mhm. What's your song of the moment?
It's so funny you ask because it's too long and I can't remember it. Okay. It's Voila by Antoine Barreau and Barbara Pravi, but specifically the version by Andre Rieu and the Johann Strauss Orchestra and Emma Koch.
Wow.
I know, it's a long one.
That it is a long
I
one.
decided to introduce a new genre today.
Oh.
You know, since last
This
time
is
we talked about
good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today it's like kind of opera-ish. It's in French.
Ooh.
And the vocals on this specific version, which is why I specified, are just beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's so Emma, the person who sings it, she's 15 years old.
What?
Yeah, and I think she performed this because I don't remember the name of the disease, but she has this disease. So like ever since she was like 8 months old or something, she's had to be fed with a feeding tube because she can't digest any food.
Mm-hmm.
And so she performed this to like raise money and like raise awareness. So
Wow.
she's so talented.
Yeah, seriously.
And apparently, I did some stalking today. She won the Dutch Voice Kids version.
Oh.
So before we get into, I guess, the content of the episode, just wanted to say, this episode we might, I guess, share a little more about our lives and our journey as people in the academic world, hopefully entering the professional world soon.
Mhm.
So just think of us kind of like panelists, like guests, like we're kind of basically interviewing ourselves this time.
Yes, it'll definitely feel a little different, but I think we wanted to kind of talk about what we went through with this episode and this topic in general. So.
Yeah, because I feel like we have really good perspectives on what it's like to be really unsure about what you're doing.
Yeah, first-hand experience.
Firsthand. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
before we get into the episode, I need to tell you, oh my gosh, I was walking into class today,
Mm-hmm.
and there were like a bunch of professional people around, like people in suits,
Oh,
all dressed up, and I was like, what is going on?
in this rain too.
I know. I felt so bad for them. But I was like, why are we all professional? And I was like walking through them. I was like, why is everyone like this? And they were like, oh, you're in the career path.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is it?
Yeah.
I know. I feel like today I started finding my career path.
Like you were on it.
I was on it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wait a minute. That's the name of the episode.
Yeah. Listeners, you are on the episode on the career path.
So true. And it's like fate. Like I thought this happened today.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Anyway. Episode. Okay.
So that's our little segue, if you couldn't tell.
I think we're both in weird moods. We had exams today, and that's always a pleasure.
For
But anyway.
sure.
We take these exams because we're pursuing your degree, so let's get into degree pursuit. Oh my god, the segues are
Yes.
so strong today.
Brenda, what are your degree pursuits?
Oh, like what am I majoring in?
Yeah.
I recently declared, actually. So
Yay!
it's kind of new. It's kind of fresh.
It's a big
special.
deal. We like
Yes.
declaring majors.
Yeah, we clearly do because we both have two.
Yes.
So my major, oh my gosh, it's too long. It's biopsychology, cognition, and neuroscience.
That's one major.
One major.
Mhm.
And then the second major is cognitive science, specifically on the decision track. So focusing cognition on decision making and like rationalization and all of that.
Yes. It's a mouthful, for sure. But it's very
sure is.
cool.
It's very cool. I love it.
Yes.
Except sometimes I hate it, but we're not gonna do that. Sorry.
Yes. And
What
this
about
is
you? Oh.
sorry. This is exactly why you hear so much of philosophy, so much psychology from Brenda, because she's very passionate about it. She's pursuing it
Yeah.
for years. So
True.
here we are.
Here we are.
Yes. I actually just declared yesterday. I'm very excited. Yes, my majors are biomolecular science and Spanish.
So fun.
Very fun.
Very different majors.
Yes. But they go well together, I think.
It's good. It's always good.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all, it's been quite a process for us to even get to declaring our majors.
Oh, very true.
Oh my gosh. We actually, so funny. Last year, we had another roommate, and we would record a video every time we changed majors, and we didn't even record every single time we changed our major. Well, not declaring, but changing our major in our head,
Yeah.
what we thought we wanted to major in, because we have too many interests.
Too many interests.
The
for
future is
sure.
uncertain and scary, and we don't know what we want to major in, because in some ways oh my gosh, in some ways it dictates your entire life, and in some ways it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, how did you figure out BMS and Spanish were the right way to go?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to pursue a degree in some sort of chemistry and Spanish, whether it be a minor or a major. And the reason I decided to major in Spanish is, because I really like the language. I think it's very useful in the upcoming future, too. But also, I'm studying abroad in Spain. So I get a lot of my credits out of the way in one semester. So that allows me to do a Spanish major. Otherwise, I would have done a Spanish minor. But yes, but in general, I think Spanish is beautiful. I think it's very useful. And I would love to just be fluent in Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then BMS, I knew some sort of chemistry for sure. I just wasn't sure if it was a straight chemistry, biochemistry, biomolecular science. I just wasn't sure. And biomolecular science, I think, covers all the basic chemistry that you need to know. We have organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, analytical chemistry. There's physical organic, biochemistry, everything that you want, just in little amounts. So because I wasn't sure exactly which field to really, really pursue, I thought BMS was good too. And it's a pretty small major.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, probably because it's difficult, I'm sure. Sounds difficult.
I think it'll be fun. I'm excited.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good.
How did you choose your cognitive science and BCN major?
Oh my! I actually just I was which majors have the most words, and then that's how
You did a great job.
Yeah, thanks. I really thought about it. Just kidding. No, Well, okay. Going into college, I knew I wanted to do BCN. BCN's biopsychology, cognition, neuroscience. BCN is what we're gonna call it. It is what we call it. But okay. So I was applying as a psychology major to most of the colleges I applied to. But what really actually helped me decide that I wanted to go to Michigan in the first place was that they had biopsychology, cognition, neuroscience. Because I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but I came from a very heavy science background, and so BCN kind of allowed me to still have that science, that natural science, part of my degree, while also really delving into what I love, which is psychology. And so it's kind of perfect. And then cognitive science. I did not really even think I was going to do cognitive science at all. I had no even notion of that major coming into college. And then last year I had to take why did I don't know.
This is my hypothesis, but our other roommate was a cog sci major, and I think that's how you got introduced to the major, and you looked into it and you were like, this is interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if she did or not. Yeah, okay. That is exactly what happened, which is why it's really good to talk to other people. Because I didn't even think about it. I was cognitive science must be too close to my major. Why would I double major in that? You know what I mean?
Right, because there's cognition in your major.
Yeah.
So.
But cognition and cognitive science are apparently quite different. And because BCN's a pretty, there's a lot of components to it.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly. I feel you don't really dive into the cognition aspect of it. I'm taking cognitive psychology for that. It's a prereq. Or no. it's a required course for BCN, but
Mhm.
that's to the extent of what I have to do for BCN regarding cognitive science. So cognitive science has been really fun because I took an intro to cog sci class last year, and that's when I was like, okay, I want to do cognitive science because it went over like decision making, but it also went over like there's 4 tracks at Michigan, so it went over like language, it went over computation, and I really like the decision part of it because another part of my background was really heavy in math. And when we were doing like the reasoning decision making, it took a lot of like mathematical kind of ideas and essentially like created formulas for how we think, but also went beyond that to like go both into the theory and the math, which I really loved, and that kind of made me get interested in decision making, and I was like, oh, this could be good. And luckily like it fit with BCN pretty well in terms of like graduating and stuff, so I was like, yeah, I'll declare that, and here I am.
So fun.
It's been a process.
Yes, our stories were short, but it's been like a 1.5 year long process.
Oh my gosh, we've thought about doing so many minors, so many majors. She was a BCN major for a little
bit, yeah, but I think I really encouraged myself to declare, because I was like, once you declare, it's really hard to undeclare, so you'll stick with it, right? Like I'm like reminding myself, like, you have to stick with it. I mean, you don't have to, but
but I think it's also like it was really good for us, at least, or I don't know why I'm speaking for you, at least for me, to go through that process of like really looking into a bunch of majors and looking into a bunch of minors, because it helped me like just play around with the idea, because I would sit with like a minor for a little bit or sit with a major for a little bit and think about like, where would it take me professionally? Would I enjoy the classes that I'm taking? Because there were some, this is the mindset I had originally, which is why I was like, I kept like jumping between minors and majors. It was because I was like, oh, like if I'm taking these 2 classes because I'm interested in them, I might as well minor in it or might as well major in it. And that's not really how college is supposed to work. I have found out. College, you know how they always say like college is where you get to like explore and like you take fun classes. That's what it is. You don't need to major in everything or like minor in things. But I think it's just been cool to like read about a lot of courses because I don't know, I feel like I've just learned a lot about like what there is in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think another reason why it took us so long to really decide on a couple majors is that there's only so many classes you can take your first and second semesters, because I remember wanting to minor in like sociology and health. Justice, history, something. I don't quite remember.
Sociology and health and medicine?
It must be sociology and health and medicine, because I was like, that's so cool.
I was going to do that.
Yeah, but I have never taken a social class. So how would I know to minor in it if I like haven't done it?
Yeah, I was going to minor in that, or I was going to minor in law, justice, and social change, which is also like a sociology-based class. And so you need to take intro to sociology for either of those minors. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing these minors. I took the sociology class. It was really interesting, but it also helped me realize like I don't want to spend semesters learning about it, just because I don't know, like I didn't want to dive deep into it, which is why it's good to like take some classes, because you get to at least have like a basic knowledge of it without spending your entire day just in that mindset,
Exactly. But that's how I felt about computer science. I took the basic computer science like programming class here. I enjoyed the first couple of weeks, and then it got harder, and I was like, I don't my brain doesn't compute like that. So so I guess a question that I want to ask ourselves is, what can we do with our majors? Like, where do we see ourselves professionally in a couple of years after we graduate?
That's the fun one. Because I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. This is something I struggle with a lot, because I think we've like we probably mentioned it. At this point, you know a little too much about it. But like I extracurricularly, oh my gosh, outside of courses and like academics, I'm in a policy club, I am doing lab, I'm doing business, and that allows me to like keep my options a little more open than just like staying like psychology, social science focused. But that being said, professionally, I think BCN at least is really cool to me because I think I could take like a lab, like a research approach with it.
Mm-hmm.
But with cognitive science, it's a little more, I don't know, like professionally based, I think.
Mm.
What? No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Like what they call like office based.
Okay.
Whereas I think BCN is a little more like scientist, like research.
Mm-hmm. A little
that
more
make sense?
hands-on.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I like double majoring too.
Mm-hmm. You get the option.
Yeah, I get the options. I'm an indecisive person, you know, which is funny because I'm studying indecision.
That is kind of ironic.
Yeah. But that's the other thing I like about psychology is I always say, I'm like, psychology just keeps a lot of doors open for me. In terms of like psychology can be used in marketing. Like I'm doing a marketing
Mm-hmm.
internship
Mm-hmm.
and psychology can be applied there, but it can also be applied in any kind of business setting, honestly, like operations.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Psychology can also be applied in like an organizational. Okay, that's the thing. There's also different types of psychology, which is fun. I don't know if it's like that for other majors in terms of like what you can concentrate on.
Mm-hmm.
But like psychology, there's so many different types. Like there's developmental, there's clinical, there's oh my gosh, like behavioral, there's personality.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really fun because I can just, as I go through my years of college, I feel like I'll figure it out a little more. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question at all.
No, but I think you gave us a good like ballpoint on like what your majors can lead to.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I like about my majors is I can enter the workforce and then I can also go to graduate school later, or I can go to graduate school afterwards. Maybe I can get my PhD in clinical psychology if I really want.
Mm-hmm.
I will not do that though. But right now it's looking like business.
That's so fair.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like the business thing.
I know, that's the thing. Like, even though I've declared my major and even though I've like been pretty set on BCN, like I will always say, go try new things.
Mm-hmm.
Go join a club that you just have an interest in, even if it has nothing to do with your major. Just because I think it opens a lot of new doors and opens a lot of new perspectives. Because, like, I joined that internship, the marketing one, saying, oh, I want to like tie in like psychology mine and like use psychology. And I don't really use psychology that much at all in that job, but it's opened a little my eyes to like marketing and that whole side of business, which is really fascinating.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Where do you see yourself professionally?
There's 3 main ways I have prepared for myself. So there's the pre-health way, which BMS really prepares me well for. There's the PhD way, graduate school way, which BMS, again, does a pretty good job preparing me for, but I would have to try to get a research position over the summer, over the semester, and see if I really do enjoy doing research. And then the third way would be more on the business field, which my consulting club is great at preparing me for that. So I think have 3 major doors open, and I'm hoping to keep them open. And I think Spanish can interweave wherever because it's a language. Like
and that's really that's also like really useful. Like if you're a doctor, like to talk to patients, but it's also like useful if you're in business and you need to talk to clients. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so that's why I chose my 2 majors. That's part of why I chose the 2 majors, but kind of going back to how you were like psychology, you can focus on developmental, clinical. We have within chemistry majors, there are like subcategories. So BMS is a subcategory of a chemistry major.
Oh, okay.
I guess like a chemistry department major.
Yeah.
And there's this major called interdisciplinary chemistry, and you take like the classic orgo, classic gen chem, and then you can kind of like form your own degree. So like if you're really interested in organic chemistry, take more like harder organic chemistry. Yeah. If you like phys org, take more phys org classes. So it's kind of cool that like it's very different fields, but similar in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I forgot about like my future plans is, well, I didn't forget. Well, I guess I did forget, but that makes it sound bad, is law school. Has always been something I'm interested in, but I don't know. I think this is what I've always told myself. I feel like people around me are always like, you need to like really think about what you're doing professionally. Like, does your major, like, how does your major apply? And while that is important, I think there's also something to be said for just like doing what you love and what you're passionate about in college and figuring it out later. I don't know. I think that's always been my mindset. Just, I don't know. I've never placed too much weight on knowing exactly what I want to do professionally. I don't think you have either because, you know, those 3 avenues, right?
Yes.
But that's what's cool about law school, too, is that I can just decide whenever I decide to take my LSAT, you know what I mean? Because law school doesn't require you to, like, take certain courses like pre-med does, which is perfect for me, honestly. Yeah. But going back to, I guess, finding your majors, I actually wanted to talk about, I guess, like, the reasons why it's so hard to find your way and, like, figure out what you're majoring in college. And I think the number one thing is, like, oh my gosh, I feel like I always am just trashing on the education system. But it's not like that, guys. There's a lot of good things. It's just, I don't know. It's a tough one. But K through 12, you kind of just, like, focus on these really general topic areas, like science. It's just science. Or social studies or math or what is that? Reading. It's not even English. It's reading. You know what I mean? So you don't really know a lot. I feel like I didn't know a lot about all the different, like, subtopics and like the different areas of focus that, like, especially interdisciplinary areas, because I feel like everything's very categorized K through 12, and then you come to college and it's not like that. So that's one thing.
Yeah, I think along with that is that once you get into high school, you're so focused on the next step, which for a lot of people is college. And I think a lot of times it's fit in as many AP credits as you can. Like, instead of taking the social class, instead of taking the econ class, take the AP Chem, take the AP Bio. Like, so I think we're kind of, I don't know, kind of like molded into taking certain classes that aren't that don't really, like, fulfill our interests.
Yeah, and we were, I think, lucky enough to have the opportunity to take AP classes and IB. Well, not, like IB classes for some people, but there's also, like, the opposite where you don't have the opportunity to take AP classes at all. But usually at those kind of schools, I feel like you still have, like, a very limited selection of courses. Or they're not very, I guess, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, intentional in, like, their focused area. Like, you would just be taking, like, a general science or something like that. Or otherwise, like, for example, like, I took pre-AP chemistry, which is similar to, like, I don't know, like, a general chemistry, I guess. But even with that, it's, like, it just gives you such, like, a broad perspective on chemistry or something that I don't know, I feel like you don't really get the chance to, like, find your interest in that area, because I think some people, like, could really like a certain part of chemistry, but they wouldn't even know because of how bird's eye view it is.
Yeah, and I think, like, just because we're talking about AP chemistry, like, AP chemistry is not organic chemistry. You know what I mean? So, like, I think also in that sense, you might really like chemistry in high school, you might really like AP Chem in high school, and then you come to college and then you take Orgo because you have to if you're a chem major, and you're like, whoa, maybe I don't actually enjoy this. You know?
Oh yeah, no, I like, I see people taking calculus and stuff, and, like, Calc 3, and I took Calc 3 in high school, but if I were to take Calc 3 here, I would hate math, honestly. But it's just funny how, like, I don't know, the way high school teaches is so different from college, but also very similar at the same time. I don't know. I think the curriculum is very different, but, like, the style of teaching I wouldn't say is too dissimilar. I feel like high school teachers often are like, oh my gosh, in college, like, I'm preparing you for college. Like, college, they're gonna, like, not have any leeway. They're not gonna, I don't know, I feel like high school teachers are always stuck in, like, the time when there were no presentations. They'll always be like, guys, like, I'm not gonna wait for you to take notes. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, I think also, and I mean, high school does a good job, at least my high school did a good job of, like, exposing me to different sciences, because it was science and engineering school, so it did expose me to different sciences. But because high school is high school, I don't know how I would put it, but, like, you don't get, like, the best of the best teachers. I feel like professors, you you're only going to be a professor if you love the subject.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like taking a college, like if you were to take the same course in high school versus college, oftentimes you might like it more in college, or you'll get a real sense of that subject at least in college because the professor like really knows the topic and they really love the topic, whereas high school teachers are just engineered to have more of like a broader sense of the topic. Why I'm saying this is because I don't know, like at least for me, teachers just make or break a class.
For
And like I had a not so good physics teacher my first year taking physics in high school, and I think it just ruined physics for me completely. Just because it messes a lot with your confidence, like if you don't understand something because your teacher just isn't compatible with the way you learn. But so I think college does a good job of like really letting you know whether you love a subject, especially because I mean, I think grades matter more in college to a certain extent, but I think they're in some ways like separated a lot from the content. I don't know how to explain it, honestly. It might just be a mindset change.
I agree that grades do matter a little bit more in college, but maybe I have less higher expectations. Like I don't expect me to be a straight A student anymore. Like maybe that's what it is. I don't
know. Yeah, I guess it depends. Kind of also just what major you're doing. I don't know. I think people just have a I've talked about this a little before, but like people always have a perception of psychology majors like being it's just easy classes, which I'm doing BC in, so also different from like regular psychology, like general psychology. But regardless, because of that, I think I just have high expectations regardless. Because I'll look at like engineering students or like chem students and be like, yeah, I wouldn't have expectations just because they are like notoriously difficult in terms of grading too. And like I think you just have to like you don't have to have as high of a GPA as those majors, whereas for psychology I think it's just expected to have a high GPA. So I think for me grades probably matter a little more, but even with that I think I don't know, but actually I will say because grades matter more to me now, I think I do a better job of like really learning the content. And I found that when I really actually like dive into the content, I like it more. Because like, you know how I was telling you like how I hate that biopsychology class because it's so hard. And oh my gosh, the grading's terrible. But like last exam I prepared so much more for it. And I got to know the content more and I was like, you know what? I don't hate neuroscience as much. So
that's good.
Yeah, I think I don't know, just the way college classes frame the content kind of shapes your mindset in a different way, which is also really conducive to loving a subject, or at least knowing whether you love a subject or not.
And I think another reason why it's like hard to find what we want to do or like what we want to study for the next couple of years is sometimes like one semester or a couple of classes we take and it didn't help us in any way. Like it didn't help us fulfill certain requirements, so then you just kind of feel like you wasted time, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's really hard because personally, like first semester I didn't take any classes that pertain to my major at all, and it was good. I like got some distribution credits, which are just like gen eds done, which was really good, but I did really feel behind compared to other students who are pursuing the same major just because I lost a semester. And I didn't realize that until at the end of freshman year or at the end of the semester. So I think that's also why it can really determine what major you choose just because you lose time.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do with little time.
Yeah. I know like people always say, oh, when you go to college, like you're going to change your major. We did. But, just kidding. I've been BC and strong. But you don't, like, I don't know. Once you get to college, you are changing your major, but you're also like, oh my God, I don't have enough time. Especially, I don't know. At least for me, it's always like in the back of my mind, like, I'm paying so much money for this education. Like, I need to make the best use of it. And yeah, I felt like the same way where I, like, going into college, like, when I was choosing my classes the summer before, I didn't really get that much advisor help. And I also just, like, didn't know how to, I guess, talk to an advisor. I don't know. So I kind of just took classes that seemed interesting. And, like, they were interesting. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it did make me feel, I was like, why did I take this? Like, I could have, especially because it's so hard to get the classes you want.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, like if I had started earlier, I would have gotten the class I wanted that semester, and then it would have made my life a little easier choosing classes now. But I just had to remember, like, those classes were still interesting. I learned a lot from them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know anything about sustainability.
Yeah, and like you learned other things too. Like you learned that you didn't want to do a social major or like social minor.
Yeah.
So
that's the other thing. I also had to remember, like, I had a plan at that time. It's just different from what I had now. And I probably wouldn't have had the plan I have now if I didn't have the plan that I had before.
Exactly.
But it still hurts a little.
Yes. But yeah, now that we've talked about why it's kind of hard to kind of like find our way and like why there is so much future uncertainty, I think there's ways that we take that kind of help us cope with it in a sense. We're like step towards a little bit more of certainty, I guess.
Yeah.
I think one of them, which we kind of talked about, is joining extracurriculars and just kind of like dabbling your feet in it. Like dipping your toes, seeing if you like it. Yeah. So
that's what first, like, freshman year is a great time to do it because your classes are a little less terrible. They don't have to take up as much of your time.
And
so
it's
a good time to like join as many clubs as possible, whatever you enjoy.
Yeah. And it's a great way to find community too. So I think freshman year, first semester is always a really good time.
Yeah, I think first semester is like the time where you're just trying to find people that you vibe with, trying to find your friends, and also, and a good way of doing that is joining those clubs because it helps you professionally and it helps you personally, you know?
Exactly.
And helping yourself personally, as we all know, helps yourself professionally.
Self-care.
Self-care. Yeah. I think a good way, like Michigan has a career fair. I mean, not career fair. Oh my gosh. Club fair. I'm sure a lot of colleges do that. Yeah, just going around finding as much information as possible, you know. Taking all the flyers. Oh my gosh, I took so many flyers at the first one.
Yes.
Yeah, just going to interest meetings, you know. And I also think not even just going to like the extracurricular, like more of like the, like even going to academic like club meetings is really good, like the mass meetings. I remember there was one point in my life where I was going to do public health. And I remember I went to, what was it, like a public policy? No, it was a health.
Permic?
Yeah. I don't know. It was like a health policy club or something. And I went to that and I was like, it was like kind of public health focused. And I went to that and I was like, oh, I don't want to do public health. And like just going to that helped me. And I didn't like quote unquote waste my time taking a whole class on it. So that was good.
And I think another reason why finding as much information as possible is good is because you can't ask questions if you don't know anything about it.
True.
And you can't make educated decisions if you don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, learn as much as you can and then decide if you like it or not.
Yeah. Don't they say like the best way to learn is to like do it yourself?
And make mistakes.
Yeah. I already also kind of mentioned this, but talking more about internship workspace. I was actually talking to a friend yesterday about navigating like the internship workspace because he was talking about like how he was applying to all these big companies and he wasn't like getting any responses for them, or like they were all rejections immediately. And I think there's a lot of pressure, I don't know, especially at a university as competitive as Michigan, to just like apply for all these big companies and like get that big name immediately. Because it looks so good on your resume and like everyone knows it, and like, you know, it's a clout factor, let's be honest. But I think, I don't know, I honestly like the smaller company. I think working at a smaller company is actually more effective just because, guys, I'm gonna be honest, capitalism. Big companies, they don't always give you the directed attention that you need, which can be good. Like, while I understand the resume building factor, I feel that one. At the same time, like, I don't know, I feel like I work at a smaller company and I did have the opportunity to like apply for a bigger company, and I like went to one of the recruiting events and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this because I just didn't feel like I would be able to try all the things I want. And like working in a smaller company, I feel like I've really gotten that opportunity. So just like weighing the opportunities that you come across can be really good. Like, don't just go based off of face value is what I'm trying to say. Like, when you're looking at internships and workspace, don't just look at their website. Look at, more specifically, what they do. What are the internship descriptions? Talk to people that have worked there. That's really helpful. If you're on a campus as big as ours, I feel like you can find someone somewhere on campus that has like done that same internship that you're applying for, and that can be really helpful. But regardless, internships just generally are really helpful because for one, whoever's employing you like understands that you're a student.
Oh yeah,
which is really good, because it just gives you a lot of flexibility. But also with that, it helps, like, they understand that you're looking for opportunities to like just learn and like figure out what's happening. Like, my boss is really good about, like, she'll always say, oh, like, I'm giving you this project, it'll be really helpful just no matter where you go in the future. And internships are really also understanding about the fact that you won't necessarily be with them forever.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just really helpful for figuring out what you want to do. And like, even working at the lab, like, last year I feel like I was like, oh my god, like, I need to get a lab position because I'm so interested in doing research and that's what I want to do. And I am working at the lab right now, and it's fun, but I'm like, maybe I don't want to do research for the rest of my life just because it's so arbitrary. I don't know, you never really know what's happening there. But like, just having that not an internship experience, but like having that work volunteer experience it's definitely guiding my thought a little more. So yeah, spoiler guys, I might not do research.
Now that we've talked about our experiences on how we coped with future uncertainty, there's some like more quote unquote research based, quote unquote scientific based.
Yeah, also just like zooming out a little more instead
of
only giving personal anecdotes. Because I think our experiences in some ways are very niche.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so fun fact, I was doing a reading for philosophy yesterday, and I came across this article about AI and how it's expanded and all of this nonsense. But one of the things I came across was Clarke's second law. So Clarke has 3 laws. Could not tell you what they are. But the second law basically states the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the possible. And I thought that was so perfect for today's kind of segment about future uncertainty and coping with that, because I mean, when we were talking about accepting change in that previous episode, we did talk about how it's good to like kind of like being outside your comfort zone isn't always a bad thing. And I think this really captures that in a, I don't know, kind of an inspirational way. But like we talked about, like dipping your toes in. I think that just sets the scene for kind of how you should approach uncertainties and approach the future. Because oftentimes we think we know the limits of the future, and we think like, oh, like with my degree I can only do this, but you would never know until you like actually, you know, enter the field or like take that step to like take the class, and then you can see a little more.
Yeah. I like that. That's very inspirational.
While doing research for the episode, I came across this article from the American Psychological Association, my favorite place on earth. And it was an article about coping with uncertainties and like different coping strategies. So I thought we could go through them and then like, you know, expand upon them.
Yeah.
Give our little take on them. So the first, I guess, like maxim was be kind to yourself.
Yes. Because I think by being uncertain about our future, we sell ourselves short on like our assets and our like skills that we have, because a lot of times we approach it with fear, like fear of uncertainty. Right. And like it might be fear of unemployability. It might be a fear of, I'm not sure, but like you're selling yourself short. You can do it. So yeah, be kind to yourself. Just like let yourself know that like you can do it.
Yeah, something about selling yourself short reminded me. Who was I talking to yesterday? Maybe it was my parents. I don't remember. Shout out. I was talking about selling yourself short with someone, and because they were like, why do you always sell yourself short? And like, you know that how people are always like, oh, you should set the expectations low so you can always rise above them. And I think like having that mindset can be so detrimental to your health, because then you start believing it. I've definitely fell into that trap. So I don't know, just keep that in mind. don't set your expectations low. Don't set them too high either.
Yes, which we talked about with the self-sabotage
Yeah,
episode.
happy medium.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, reflecting on your past successes.
Mm-hmm.
Part of being kind to yourself, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like oftentimes we're so quick to jump to the next thing, and we don't take a step to like reflect on our past successes and also like figure out how much we've grown.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something I've really started doing recently is like even when I was studying for the exam that I had today, I feel like I've grown so much as like an academic weapon. Just kidding. As like, I don't know, what's it, like an academic, like someone who's studying for exams. And yeah. Oh, like what last episode was success, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So reflecting on like how you've grown, that's such an important part of success. Yeah. And I think that's more important because I was like, well, I guess that doesn't really apply because exams, like I haven't done as well on them in the past. But I'm like, no, it has been successes because I've been growing. I've been having those little peaks.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm improving. So that was actually really motivational for me because I felt like really confident going into this exam, which I've never felt. I always get so scared before exams. But allowing myself to like look back on how I improved has given me more confidence. And then I did good on that exam.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think another way to cope is develop new skills. And it like, not only because having more skills, I think a lot of employers look for, like where like you're building your resume, but also it makes you adaptable. Like you're learning how to do certain things. Like it's another skill set. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but I don't know.
I feel like both of us are just really big believers in like being all rounders.
Yeah, and just trying everything, trying the best you can, and then it'll get you somewhere.
Yeah, I think the quote that I stand by, love this quote. A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. I think I might have mentioned this in a previous, one of like the earliest episodes, but that's something I really stand by. Be a jack of all trades. Develop new skills.
And it can be as little as doing some Duolingo at home.
Oh, yeah.
It can be watching a couple of videos on Excel.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be something gigantic.
Yeah. I think it also just builds your confidence, too, because I think both of us, like, entering the business space, we've been very scared and terrified because we keep coming across things that we don't know. But now that I've, like, just developed new skills in the business space that are just so tiny, like, I don't know that much about them, but it just makes me more confident just because I feel like I have a better, like, overall view of business.
Yeah.
And it makes me more confident when I'm talking about marketing or like talking in meetings at work, even though I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about. Does that make sense?
Yes, I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just a feeling.
Yeah, and then another thing is take your own advice. If someone came to you with their fear of uncertainty, what would you tell them? And take your advice, which we talked about in self-love.
Probably, yeah. That makes sense.
Because like we always treat others with the extra grace that we don't give ourselves.
Yes.
So give yourself the extra grace.
Yeah. It's funny because what was it? Oh, there was that one episode, the communication episode, that we had such an in-depth conversation about episode. And we were like giving all this advice and like, oh, you should do this, you should do this. And now every single time I don't communicate, Lizzie's like, take your own advice. You're being a hypocrite. But it's like helpful because then I'm like, oh yeah, I can't be a hypocrite. And also just reminds me like what I would tell someone else of what I should be telling myself.
I think there's a couple more ways that we can go about navigating through the uncertainty, and this is from Harvard Business Review. But it's like, let the unknown open you to possibilities. So kind of like step back and wonder about the career paths, where the courses, or whatever your next future is. Wonder about those that you haven't thought about yet. And I think that kind of like goes in with approach it with curiosity rather than fear, which I think is very good.
Yeah.
Because fear just makes everything so much worse.
Yeah. Fear is debilitating, paralyzing.
Yeah.
Paralyzed with fear. That's a saying.
Exactly.
More generally, not from Harvard Business Review, just our little takes. I mentioned, like, when you're looking for work experience, like, talking to other people that have had that internship and, like, apply to it.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, not just in relation to, like, work and finding a job, reach out to people who have maybe experienced the same dilemma as you. Like, when we were figuring our majors, like, talking to other people that had to figure that out has been really helpful. But hearing from people that have been in that same position doesn't necessarily, it shouldn't make you make the same decision they did, because at the end of the day, we're all completely different people, and, like, their skills might not be the same as yours, their talents might not be the same as yours, their mindset might not be the same as yours, but it should at least allow you to understand what they did consider and what maybe you should consider when negotiating the uncertainty in your own mind. Because oftentimes, you know, hearing from new perspectives allows you to think about the things that you wouldn't have thought about. You didn't know about it, but that opened you to new possibilities. There
Exactly. Yeah, I really like that. And, like, just the concept of coffee chatting. People that, like, I don't know, you get to learn a lot about what they've been through, especially if it's in the same field.
I think being uncertain about the future also enables you to reach more clarity about what you want to do, because, I don't know, you think about it more analytically rather than emotionally, like if you're making those quick impulsive decisions. I feel like this is talked about a lot in mainstream media, so you may have heard the term CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Essentially, this is kind of an approach like that therapists use a lot for people with depression or anxiety, where oftentimes you're making those, like, really emotional decisions and you're, like, taking a step back to, like, think about things analytically and logically, because, you know, oftentimes anxiety and depression is irrationally based. Not that I'm invalidating that, but you know, like, they're not necessarily, like, the most logical reactions, but we just can't help it. So essentially, cognitive behavioral therapy relies on this kind of process of thinking where you think, okay, I had this thought. What emotion is associated with this thought? What behavior is caused by this thought? So essentially, you kind of form, like, this link, and you, it's like this loop, like thought, emotion, behavior, thought, emotion, behavior, thought. And you take a step back to, like, think, why am I feeling this emotion? Why is this emotion causing me to act this way? And so then you kind of think about everything more logically.
A little more objectively.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly the word. Yeah, objectively. And I don't know if that really makes sense related to what I was talking about. I mean, related to the future. But what I'm trying to say is, think, like, taking that step back and, like, looking at things from a more logical perspective often comes with time, and it often comes with feeling uncertain about the future, because it means that you're not giving in impulses. Because oftentimes, like, if, like, a lot of people have their stuff figured out, like, if you see them, like, 10 years later and you're like, oh, maybe you're not doing what you said you'd do in high school or, like, college. Like, I've heard, I don't know where I've heard, like, I've seen anecdotes about, like, people in high school, like, they go to the reunion and they're like, wait, you were so sure about what you want to do and now you're not doing it. And so often, like, sometimes you can be better off not knowing what you want to do in the moment, because it allows you to give it some time. And I think with that, you also you become more educated about the field, because you want to seek out the most information. And so in turn, you might feel a little more prepared than people who are making these impulsive decisions.
That's very true.
Impulsiveness can be good for some people. It just depends on who you are.
That's also very true.
Uncertainty can also sometimes just be self-sabotage. So it's very important to be mindful of what's driving the uncertainty. And if it's getting to be quite unhealthy, maybe you should think about things in a new way, which is also why CBT is very helpful, because it allows you to think about why you're feeling a certain way. Why are you feeling uncertain? Is it logical? Is it not logical? And then, introspection for real.
Yes, we love introspection.
Introspection is just always the bottom line, guys.
I agree.
A lot of us humans just aren't self-aware enough.
We should, like, get a shirt that says introspection, introspection, introspection.
True. Should we change the name of the podcast?
Introspection.
Introspection Society. Introspectors. That could be fun.
Small step introspectors.
That's beautiful. Well, now that we've, got into our bottom line, which is always introspection, I guess you know what that means. the end of the episode, guys. You've done it. You've reached the end.
But next week we have grand plans,
Yeah.
which we said last week.
But by last week, when we said that, we meant the next week.
Yes. We were just giving you a 2-week preview.
Yeah.
And we're very excited for next week because I think it's a fresh perspective that we haven't heard from at all this season.
Yeah. Let's just say, I don't know what we'd say.
And we have a lot of questions for
We have
them.
so many questions.
And I have a feeling they're going to be able to give us some great insight.
yeah. Put
So-
your guesses in the comments. Just
Yeah.
kidding. Nobody ever comments. Who am I? Nobody does that.
So if you're wondering who this might be, come back next week.
True. Come back next Sunday, to
Mhm.
be exact, because we post every Sunday.
Yes.
And if you want the notification, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can see our lovely faces there. Hit the notification bell to get notified specifically. Also, on Instagram, we give you a little preview of the episode a couple days
Mhm,
before, so that's fun.
mhm.
Follow us at Small Step Society Pod. Also, you can hear us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can find podcasts, except where you can't.
Exactly. Thank you for listening, and we'll come back next week Sunday.
Bye.
Goodbye.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.